Well, here we are again, folks. HomeBhoys Xtra. You've probably gathered that for the background noise that seems to accompany all these podcasts. But you know what this is guerrilla podcasting, and we go where the stories are. So, straight into it. Sitting across me right now, I have an ex-football player. Played for numerous clubs in Scotland and Finland and America, and he's going to talk about his career and things and opinions on football, coaching, as he does now, and all sorts of things. So, welcome to Kris O'Neil.
Cheers, Paul. Nice to be here.
Good stuff, good stuff. So I want to take you right back to what we would call the glory days of Granton and when you played. And what I'm interested in is, at what point in your career do you start to realise that you're better than the players around you and can start progressing through the levels?
It was quite late for me, actually. I wasn't one of those child prodigies at 8 and 9 year old. I was playing at school like the rest of them, at playtime and after school. Then I got signed up for Granton Boys Club. John Grady asked me to go along via one of my friends at school.
Yeah.
And I was quite average, to be honest, when I first went. Quite nervous. Wasn't anything special at like 11, 12 year old age. I'd play for the school, but I wasn't what you would say a standard. But eventually, I started just playing down at the civil service, which you'll know well. I used to sneak on there quite a lot. It was also, and a lot of boys would just play knockout football, and eventually I think just one summer everything kind of clicked. I was down there every night until obviously the sun went down, and then I was all of a sudden becoming better on the ball, quicker, stronger, and eventually I started scoring goals for Granton. I remember it just clicked one day. I scored a hat-trick. I can't remember who it was against, maybe Hutchie Vale or something, down at East Poulton. Then the goals just started to flow, like constant. I think I scored my first season nearly 100 goals. And then it was when I started to realise maybe I'm onto something here, and teams started to kind of pay attention.
When you talk about these games before you played Granton and these, like at the Civvy and stuff, I mean, these were a lot of good players, a lot of hard games, there was no prisoners kept. How much do you think that actually helped you?
Massively. Honestly, some of the tackles that were flying in,
exactly.
You can almost bypass that. Playing for junior football and all that, it was a tough upbringing. We had some big boys down there, tough laddies from your house, kicking lumps out you.
Well, that was the thing. People are probably saying forever would scheme out there, but it was almost a fight every night.
Exactly.
And yet most of us anyway, are still all mates and stuff. But there was no hiding place in the games.
There wasn't. It was definitely not. That area's produced quite a lot of good players. Not household names, but a few guys that like Gordon Strachan.
Up there with Gordon
No, I'm definitely not putting myself up with Gordon Strachan. Derek's probably the one who probably had the most ability out of them all. Strachan worked hard at his game. He was obviously a fitness fanatic. If Derek probably had the attitude that Strachan had, the sky was his limit, honestly, because he played for the Granton Boys Club the year below me, along with Gary O'Connor. And obviously I heard about this young lad. I was probably the big thing at Granton at that time, to be honest with you, but I heard about this young laddie coming through scoring all kinds of goals. And honestly, I've never seen a player like him. Left foot, right foot. It's quite a shame what's happened. I wouldn't say he's not done well with his career financially, he has, but if he probably one day he'll look back, I think, and thought,
for the talent
he had, it was incredible.
That's what I was wanting to ask you, was that the father was never really a big football guy playing or watching. 3 brothers all played football, probably not as good as they think they actually think they are. You were certainly better than them. So where did it come from?
Well, me and my brothers were very competitive.
That's a polite way of saying it.
I remember we used to play big games around Silvernail Golf Course, and I'd scream to play, and they would be, no, you're not coming, you're not good enough, and all that. And then eventually I started to get a game and started to be better than them, and I don't think they really liked that. But they were always football daft, and they play football all the time, and the competitive edge of being like having 3 brothers, it definitely helped me.
It was, no doubt it was a competitive household.
It definitely was.
But so you're scoring goals for Granton, you're starting to tear up trees. When does the interest for Hearts come?
Well, I got told originally that Motherwell were watching me, but I think all along it was actually Hearts who were watching me. It was probably so I wouldn't get nervous during the games and stuff like that. I think it was a game down at East Poulton. I finally got told it was Hearts after the match. I think I scored from the halfway line. The keeper kicked it out, and I've hit it first time. I'm not making this up, by the way. Someone will probably vouch for me out there. But I did. I scored from the halfway line. I scored all kinds of goals. In a way, I was very similar to Viardam. I had 2 feet, which was quite rare. Mm-hmm. When I was younger, I always used to work on left foot, right foot.
Yeah.
I take corners on my left foot, take free kicks with opposite foot, and I was quite similar to him, but I think he had maybe a little bit more pace than what I did. Mm-hmm. But yeah, then I got told that Hearts were interested. Well, they came to watch that game when I scored from the halfway line. So I was at school and I got a phone call from they called my class, John Grady, who's a great guy. He was basically an unsung hero down at Granton. Yeah. Love him to pieces. One of my big regrets actually is that I've not really had the chance to thank him. Kind of just how life goes on. Like John was a great guy. Him and Alan Carney done a lot for that community. Mm-hmm. He told me that Hearts were interested, and I actually sprinted home. You know me, I was Hearts staff.
Yes.
All I did was wear John Robertson strips in the playground. At that stage, I said to myself, if I could even play one game, 1 minute for Hearts, and from that stage, I actually said I'm going to work my arse off basically, so that I can get that one moment, and thankfully that kind of came to fruition later on. But getting told that Hearts were interested was absolutely unbelievable.
And so who from Hearts approaches you to actually sign?
There was a guy called Ian Grassick, who was one of the youth scouts around Edinburgh. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of names there. Paul Conley, Hugh McGoran, I don't know if you know him. Schultz, he was connected with Celtic Boys Club for a while. He came and watched me a few times. I can't remember who actually made the call to my manager John, but basically I had to go to training Tuesday, Thursday at Sockton Enclosure. Mm-hmm. And I was so nervous the first few sessions. You just feel totally out of your depth, because these are the best. It's not just the best guy from that area. This is all the best guys from the whole of Scotland. There was guys from Glasgow, Aberdeen, and all that. The standard was so high. I remember having a nightmare on my first training session, just thinking, "Oh, that's me done," because my touch, it was running through my feet and all that, under my feet and all that. I was like, I've blown it. But we had a game quite quick actually, and we were playing Celtic. It was under 12s or under 13s, and it sucked in. And I scored a hat-trick on my first game, and everything from there just kind of clicked.
And so as you progressed on with Hearts, started moving into kind of the youth setup and whatever, what kind of players were you playing with at that time?
Well, it was a really strong squad actually. I mean, guys like John Robertson and Gary Mackay, John Cahoon, all those guys, they were still at the club when I went to do my work experience, and because that's what Craig Royston sent me. Because I said the only thing I want to be is a football player. I'm not interested in going to a bank or anything like that. I was just kind of single-minded, which probably regret now. I wish I stuck in at school a little bit more. But
just before you actually say that, were you allowed to play for the school as well as Hearts?
Yeah, I was.
So that was because I know that doesn't really happen now.
Yeah, well, I was still with Granton alongside Hearts, so Hearts games would be kind of midweek and train with Hearts. I wouldn't play many games with them actually. I never had a league at that age. I was playing with Granton all the time, and we were quite a successful team. We got to Scottish Cup finals and all that, and at that time we were probably the best team in the country actually. Us in Hutchie Vale with the likes of Mark Burchell and Kenny Miller and all that. So even just looking back, it was the standard in Edinburgh and around those times was fantastic. But
yeah, I mean it was a kind of, I mean, you talk about people like Mark Burchell and that, and of course you went on to play with him Scotland levels and stuff, but before that of course there was things going on. I mean, one tournament I wanted to ask you about was the Milk Cup. Yeah. I mean that was a huge thing for teams then, wasn't it?
Well, I played at the Milk Cup 4 years in a row. As I played under 14s twice, under 1 year below myself, and then under 16s. That tournament was incredible.
And who were you? What sort of players were you playing against?
Well, like say Michael Owen, Joe Cole, Peter Crouch. I was actually playing against Peter Crouch, and he was the same height at 15-year-old as he was literally about 6'7". We drew 1-1 with them, but I missed a penalty in the semi-final, which I think John Murray never ever forgave me for. It was to get to the final against Man United, and I'm giving everybody a pep talk, and just concentrate on your penalty, and we'll get through. And I was the only one that missed. And I was absolutely devastated, because at the showgrounds there was 9,000 people to watch the final. It was live on TV and all that, and I was absolutely devastated for days. And honestly, ever since then, John Murray hardly spoke a word to me. He's like, I don't know if you know John Murray, but he was a chief scout at Hearts. So I think he's still involved with him. But I don't think I was his favourite person after that.
Coaches alike. But there were obviously other highs. I mean, one of them was he played and scored in the winning EP Youth Cup final.
Yeah, and it was quite an achievement actually, because that year we were near the bottom of the league actually, because we had quite a young team. We were like 15, 16 year old, and a lot of the other teams had, like Dundee United had a really strong team. Stephen Thompson, Jim Patterson and all that, Paul Gallagher in goals.
Yeah.
And these guys were like 2 years older than us. So for us to go all the way, that's probably the highlight of my Hearts career actually. I mean, I went on to play for the first team, to score, there was about 6,000 people at the final.
Front page of the Evening News.
Yeah, and I got man of the match in the semi-final against Aberdeen, which was a miracle we beat them because they were unbelievable. And then beating Dundee United in the final was great, and I scored in the last couple of minutes to clinch a trophy. That was a great day.
And who was your manager at youth that time?
Peter Houston.
Yeah,
Houston was
any stories about him?
No, not really. Houston was a good lad. He was quite tough Glaswegian guy. I would say probably favoured the Glaswegians more than he did with Edinburgh boys, but a lot of them do kind of. They're hardy boys through in Glasgow, and I think that's something Edinburgh boys never really had. They grew up on Nash pitches and all that, and they were really tough, like Robbie Nielsen and all that. He was a tough boy, and Houston was a tough manager, but it actually helped me with my kind of football upbringing, kind of toughen me up a little bit. But Houston was a good manager.
Paul Hegarty was around then as well, wasn't he?
Yeah, I mean Heggie was old school. He was my reserve manager, so I'd play in the reserves now and again. Paul Hegarty was from the Jim McLean era, and they're really, really strict coaches, like headmaster type.
Aye,
they never suffered fools gladly, that's for sure.
Jackie McNamara said that about Dan Jackson. He was brought up with a fist.
Yeah.
Football, and that's kind of what it's like.
They're a bit mollycoddled nowadays, the young boys, eh? But when I first went, I was cleaning the boots in the winter. We'd train for hours. Windy days down at Pinkie and Musselburgh, and you're lifting goals up onto minibuses and all that, and it was a really tough upbringing. It wasn't as glamorous as you think. The first few years I absolutely hated it.
Aye. Until
I started to get kind of close to the first team and the reserves and all that. But there was a stage where I hated Hegarty and Houston, just the way, and it was almost, I wouldn't say bullying was the word, but you actually eventually, when I got in the first team, I actually thanked them for that.
Aye.
But it was quite brutal. They would just keep you out, and if you never done something right, they would just keep you there until you did get it right, and they would run you into the ground. Fitness was a necessity, but was really horrible. And Hegarty was one of the fittest guys, even at 40-year-old. He could run mile after mile after, and he'd done marathons and all that sort of stuff.
And so at what point does Jim Jeffries start to take an interest in you?
I mean, when I first came in full time, as the first day of pre-season, Musselburgh, he actually came up to me on my first day and goes, "I've heard a lot about you," and he says, like, "The hard work starts now, but I'll be looking out for you." And ever since he said that, he did take a lot. I mean, I used to get slagged from the boys because I was like the son of Jeffries, I was like his golden child. He always complimented me and all that, and I'd always get a lift when he came to watch. If I was at training, for some reason I'd always get a lift when I seen him. Other boys would kind of freeze, or there's a gaffer. But I would score wonder goal after wonder goal, and Hegarty was annoyed because why can you not play like that all the time? But I seem to get a lift in here because if someone believes in you, it's an incredible thing.
Would it be right in saying that Jim Jeffries is a manager who takes into account what happens at training? If you have a good week in training, you can well be in the team.
Spot on, which that doesn't go on very often. Now I think guys think they play well on the Saturday and think, well, that's not in the team. But he was watching. It was like what Ferguson does at Man United. I heard that he doesn't do that much. He would come to training and he's had this aura about him. He would just stand there, and eventually your work rate was up 20%. And I think that was his biggest skill, was his man management. And you wanted to do well for him. You wanted to even get even a little pat on the back. Felt like $1 million, So he wasn't. I wouldn't say he was a genius tactician by any means, but he definitely got the best out of players, and I loved playing for him.
So when you come into his kind of first team squad, start doing first team training, what sort of players are in the squad? And I would imagine, and team, I beg pardon, and I would imagine a lot of them are your heroes, and therefore, what's that like?
It's incredible. We'd always get, now and again, they would say, right, young boys get over. So if they were doing like shape and stuff like that, I'm just sitting here in awe, and there's like Craig Levine when I first came in, Dave McPherson. By the way, Dave McPherson was some player, but for a big lad, he had some ability. John Robertson, my absolute hero.
Yeah.
I never tell him that. John Cahoon, Gary Mackay, great players, guys that played for their country, and here's me like a wee scrawny 15-year-old, but every day was like a dream come true for me, really. Like coming in training with them, and I mean, they used to annihilate us, you know. It was like the bounce games would be 10 and 11 nil, and I didn't care. I just went home and told my brothers who I'd played with that day and stuff.
Are you getting better because you're playing against guys like that?
100%. You think you're a good player, and you think you know what you're talking about, and you just... With John Robertson, he taught me a lot about striker movement and stuff, or the lack of it. If you look at good strikers, they don't... Like him, he never used to go and run the channels and stuff. Well, one, because he couldn't, because he was lazy and fat, but two, because he knew where the danger was. He knew where to like kind of pull defenders about where they didn't want to go. And I think I read a comment, Jason Cummins is doing that Hibs now. Last year he was too interested in kind of going out the box and doing his thing, but he scored more goals this year because he's kind of kept himself within the width of the posts. So Robbo was brilliant like that. He just had a few tips here, just a little sidestep here, and I started scoring goals in the reserves and the youth just because you're just watching him, And I used to run a bit daft trying to impress, but that was probably the last thing that you should do really as a striker. I guess you'll get guys, you different kind of forwards like running the channels, and then it kind of the other guy will score all the goals. I was probably the lazy one who would definitely not run any channels.
so it's moving on, and of course Hearts won the Scottish Cup in 1998, first trophy since 1962. Stopped Rangers winning a trophy for the first time in 12-13 years. Tell us about your involvement in that day at Celtic Park.
It was a very drunk day, that's for sure. It was the Youth Cup final we discussed, that was 2 days before it on a Thursday. And I remember Jeffrey saying, "You've gave us a great lift," came to all the boys, and it was almost like we set the tone. It was a great week. It was the only second time we ever won the Youth Cup. It was just a great atmosphere around the club that week. I just remember waking up that day actually, and it was like I think it was a scorching day. You just get a feeling sometimes. I've had feelings the opposite way. When we played St Mirren in the League Cup final, you kind of think, we're going to get beat today. I knew we were going to beat Rangers that day. We had a great team. I was training with that squad regularly. I was never in danger of getting into the cup final squad or anything like that. But just that whole week, there was a real sense that this was our time. Honestly, that was the best 4 days of my life. And then people talk about the beating Hibs 5-1 in the cup final and stuff like that. That didn't even come close to that to me.
You say that. You say it was the best 4 days of your life. Are you really sure about that? What happened that night? Anything?
Oh yeah, that's right. Aye. Well, after the game, after the big party, which was incredible, 250,000 people.
So, where does the team go to celebrate?
Tynecastle. Well, I think they had to wait for 2 hours for Gio Russi because he was doing a urine test at Celtic Park for the SFA or whatever.
It's like Christ, you never dropped one today.
Jesus. Big Russi, what a guy. So they delayed the team bus a bit. When they came back to Gorgie, as you know, there was 250,000 people, and we were in the kind of official buses with all the families and stuff like that. And honestly, it was like coming back to the war or something. It's hard to explain, but there was people, even
first trophy.
Well, exactly, yeah. You got outside, like say Sight Hill, and got just coming into Gorgie, and there was people hanging out the windows and old women and kind of waving scarves. It was actually quite it was emotional. It was amazing. I don't think we'll ever see the likes of that in Gorgie again.
Is there an official do after it?
Yeah, it goes to we're in the Gorgie suite. The Gorgie suite, yeah. And that was just one mental night.
And then from there? Mental
night, yep. After the match, Bruno, Big Pasquale, Bruno and Russi, they're all heading up the town. Kris, you coming with us and all that? So we were actually just walking to town, couldn't get a taxi. And all of a sudden these Hibs fans, and we were singing Heart songs, and these Hibs fans start singing and all that, and saying like, shut up and all that, stop singing and all that. I was like, we just won the cup, mate, I'm not going to stop singing. And it started getting really aggressive. I got jumped. My brother's £200 leather jacket, which I borrowed for the day, got ripped in half. I had a black eye. I absolutely got leathered. But I just didn't care. I was just smiling through it.
You talked about...
I actually ruined Gary Naismith's night because he had to take me home that night. And he was supposed to be going out, and he was like, I don't think he was too happy, but I was like, thanks for that, but I actually didn't care.
Alright. But you mentioned Pasquale Bruno there. Did you know he used to do his dry cleaning?
Oh, I did.
Can you tell us the story?
Every apprentice had players to look after, so you had to clean their boots, put their gear out after training. Pasquale Bruno is an absolute nut job. Yeah, he was absolutely crazy. He got banned playing for Italy, like a lifetime ban.
Yeah.
And I could see why after about 2 days of training. Remember that tackle he done on Chris Jackson, I think it was like nearly decapitated him. That was the best tackle I think I've ever seen. Nearly took his head off, and he's linked to the crowd, and he just like had a screwless. But anyway, yeah, we had to look after his laundry. We took his stuff up to his all his t-shirts and all his laundry and all that.
Yeah.
And I came back, and I think I came back with the wrong basket, or they had washed the wrong stuff, and he just went. He went mental. He goes, right, we're going up to the fucking laundrette. I'm sick of this shit. I was like, Pasquale, didn't go up there, mate. Didn't go up there. Can't do. It's just an old woman. So he's like, I don't give a fuck how old she is and all that. So he's like, he runs up to the laundrette, and I swear to God, there's like old people knitting and all that. And he's like, what the fuck is going on here? This is fucking not good enough. This is not my stuff. And he's like pulling out brass and pants and all that. Honest to God, it was the funniest thing I've ever seen. It was a shame on the woman because she was bursting into tears, eh?
Yeah.
But the other people didn't know where to look. They were reading newspapers and looking away. I was like, honestly, this is the best thing I've ever seen. The guy was a lunatic. But honestly, one of the best players I've ever seen play with us.
So, next season comes and you want to make your debut at Ibrox against the financially doping Rangers. What was that like? I mean, how quickly did you know you were going to play?
That was, I tell you what, to talk about training performances, get you into squads and stuff like that. We're playing in STV cameras with her. I mean, honestly, I should get in touch and try and see if we've got this goal somewhere. But Jose Quitongo, this is training the day before the match, and I wasn't in the squad at this point. So we're just kind of helping make up the numbers really. So Jose Quitongo goes down the line, and I'm at the edge of the box, and he's kind of dinked one in, and it's kind of really high behind me. And for some unknown reason, I've tried an overhead kick, and I've literally got up so high that when I've landed, I've winded myself for about 10 minutes. But I've connected with it so well that it was the best goal I've ever scored, bar none, at any level, at any training. It went right in the top corner past Rusey. It was stunning. Billy Brown said it's the best goal he's ever seen. I wonder if you ever get him.
Yeah.
He said, Kris, that's the best goal I've ever seen. Period. And I probably with my mate Ali Graham, who you met on the stag, he would back me up with that. It was incredible. And I think that obviously got me, we went back to the ground, the squad list went up, and I was in the squad. And then I remember travelling to Ibrox just thinking I was just there kind of for the experience and maybe help put the gear out and stuff like that. And then he read the team out. And it was all a bit strange. I had to did you say me there? Did you say Kris O'Neil? And he goes, you're on the bench and all that. And then he said, keep warm and all that, because there's a good chance you'll go on today. We've kind of got a short squad and all that. But I think Lee Makel got injured on about the 50th minute, just after half time. And he said to me, go and get warmed up. And it was weird. I wasn't nervous. You'd think you would be. But it was like a full house inside Ibrox for a change. And then I think we were 1-0 down at the time. And I just really enjoyed it. It was obviously the best moment in my life, coming out and make your debut for Hearts. And I said to that point, I'm on now. I actually remember running down the line. I was thinking, that's me. I could die happy now.
Right.
1 minute, 30 seconds, but actually went on to do really well in that match and got the Hearts kind of man of the match.
And any abuse that day?
Oh,
fans?
Just a bit. Came on, and I was like, the strip was too big for me. I'm like this 18-year-old, no muscles on me basically. Skinny, unlike nowadays. And the strip's like trenching me, and we were just the Rangers fans started singing, Rent boy.
So they knew you were there.
But they clocked the name as well, because O'Neill's not exactly the most Protestant kind of name, eh? I think they must have thought I was a Celtic fan or something, but I got absolute dogs abuse. taking corners and stuff like that. You're fiend, bastard. I was like, I'm not a fiend. I was total dogs abuse, like that was good fun. Yeah, but I done really well in that game. We lost 3-0, but I couldn't really care.
And of course, you're in and out the first team and in the squad for a long time after that with Jim Jeffries. And then, of course, you say that was your dream to come and play Hearts, but you actually scored in the UEFA Cup for Hearts.
I did. So I played a handful of games the first year when I was 18, and I wasn't physically ready for the SPL. It was basically, I think he was just giving me experience. So there was the under 21 rule on the bench, and I probably got benefited from that. I'm not even sure if I would have got on if it wasn't for that rule, but still great nonetheless. But the next again year he sent me out to Clydebank, remember them?
Yes, aye.
Owned by Wet.
Ian
McCall, he was another bam.
I was going to say, what was he like? Nutcase?
Great guy, but a nutcase.
Yeah.
Absolute nut job. And I think big Kenny Brannigan, I don't know if you remember him, he was the big Ouija. He was a great guy as well, but it was a scary character. He was the captain.
If I remember rightly, did certain players not have to stick up for the younger boys because of the kind of way McCall treated you?
Yeah, I mean, I was okay, but McCall was like, he was old school as well. I don't know, was he under Jock Wallace and all that at Rangers? Maybe, I don't know.
Well, Souness.
Well, yeah, whatever. Maybe not Jock Wallace before his time, but yeah, he was really, really hard. He was a brilliant player, silky, but like I say, it goes back to the Glaswegian thing. I think that they're kind of brought up tougher than what guys fed it. There's a lot of the Edinburgh boys actually that got kind of abuse, like Greg Miller, Alex Miller's son, which he deserves, by the way. I really didn't get on with it. The first day I'm going to training, the first day at Clydebank, and I'm driving up there and I meet him because he's giving me a lift and he goes, "You play for Hearts, eh?" And I goes, "Aye." He goes, I hate Hearts. You're a wee jambo prick and all that." I was like, and he didn't, and I was like laughing. And I was like, "Cheers for that, mate." Right? And he was being serious. Didn't even like, and he hardly spoke to me for the next 3 months. I was like, what a weirdo. I just couldn't believe it, honestly. I was like, who is this guy? And he was absolutely murder as well. And it was the funniest thing ever, right? We're at training, and Ian McCall obviously seen that I was quite good at set pieces and whipping balls in and all that, and we got a free kick, and Greg Miller's kind of standing over it, and he's like, "I'll take it," and Ian McCall like, "No, you get the fuck." He goes, why are you letting Kris take everything? He goes, "'Cause you're shite." Like Greg Miller storms off and all that, eh? And someone went, "But Greg, you're shite." But he was the weirdest guy I've ever met in my life. I don't know if he got into football because of his dad. I don't know what it was, but who says that? Your first day, and he must have been about 25.
Aye,
and I'm sitting there at 18-year-old, and he's sitting there saying that to me. I'm like, who are you?
And that was at the old Kilbowie, was it?
Yeah, no, it wasn't. We were playing our home games at Morton.
Oh, of course, at that time.
And I remember the Hearts youth team came to watch me for my debut, just because I had the day off, and Robbie Nielsen, obviously Hearts manager now, he came to watch me, which I really appreciated, and I scored after about 12 seconds. And it was a really good goal, and I never scored again in 3 months. I thought I was going to be like here comes the Clydebank fans thought they'd found the saviour. Right,
they could have still been gone if you'd started scoring.
Basically, I think I put them under, eh? But it was like 12, so they disbanded the year after. I think they got the lowest amount of points ever in their championship. Which I think Livingston are in danger of actually beating this year. But yeah, that was a great experience because I think that I was playing up front on my own for Clydebank, and it was in the championship as it is now.
Yeah.
There's guys like for Falkirk and stuff like that, and Fairman away at Easton Park. So, and I done really well for them. And Ian McCall really liked me. He actually said one time, he goes, "Ability-wise, you're as good as I've played with a lot of good players," and he said, "Ability-wise, you're one of the best I've seen." And that meant quite a lot. But I think he thought my attitude wasn't the best, but I disagreed. I think he was upset because they were bottom of the league and all that.
I mean, do you think that, see, with hindsight and your experience coaching and that, do you think that is a problem in Scotland with younger players' attitude?
Definitely. I mean, while I coach at Hutchie now, most of these guys have been brought up really well by Tam Smith, the chairman and all that, since they were a young age. But attitude's everything in football. Ability is just a small part of it, eh? And I had a bad attitude when I was younger. I was in and out of getting chucked out of classrooms and stuff like that. I thought I was the bee's knees, or I'm going to make it as a football player. And and I got all this praise, and I thought I was bigger than what I was, but eventually that got drummed out of me, and I realised how important hard work ethic and staying away from the alcohol to a certain extent. I mean, don't get me wrong, at the weekends I would have a drink, but nowadays I don't even think football players can do that nowadays. It's like, it's a very short career, and I think you've got to be 100% dedicated, and a lot of the boys are now.
And the goal in the UEFA Cup, I mean, what was...
That was great. I was on the squad the first game in Iceland, and I got on the last 15 minutes, which was great, making your European debut for Hearts. It was a bit surreal, but then the day before the game he said you're going to be starting, so it was quite incredible. And I set up 2 goals, no, I set up 1 goal. I set up Gary McSwiggan and then scored a really good goal. You've seen it, haven't you? Turned the ball and put it in the top corner. At that stage you're thinking you're untouchable, You think I'm scoring in Europe for Hearts and I'm doing well, I'm in all the squads. You think, I'm on the verge of something here,
Let me ask you something. You obviously talked about, you've seen it, the goal and video and stuff. Jack McNamara talked about when he came on the Scottish Cup final for Celtic against Hibs 2001 and scored with his first touch.
Yeah.
And he says when he looks at that now it's like watching somebody else.
Yeah.
Is that how you feel?
Basically, yeah. It definitely does. It's like so long ago, and time's moved on quite a lot since then.
So before we get on to the juicy stuff with Hertz, tell us about being on the bench against Celtic in Martin O'Neill's first season.
That's right. I'd been in the squad a few times at Celtic Park, which was I never got on it. That's one thing I wish I had. I think I played against every other team apart from Celtic at Celtic Park. That was just an incredible experience going into this. I mean, it takes your breath away when you first walk in through the tunnel. You look at the stadium and you do get nervous, and I can see why teams they think will be defensive today. It does kind of put the fear of death into a lot of teams.
When that Celtic team come to Tynecastle under Martin O'Neill, right? I mean, that's a proper team.
We had Petrov, they had Larsson, Moravcik. Moravcik for me was ability-wise. I mean, I'm not saying he was the best Celtic player, but ability-wise, he was the best I've seen. His touch and awareness was incredible.
I mean, he ran right that day. But I remember you saying at the time that it was, you're looking at them thinking, you're almost beat before you walked out on the pitch, just because of the aura. I think it's the aura, but the physicality as well. Even our biggest player, I don't know who would have been at the time, but is probably comparing to their smallest player, like Mialby and Valharan. And if you look at the last 15, 20 years, Celtic have kind of always had huge defenders. Stubbs, Anoni, all these guys have really got a presence, and it is quite intimidating, I think. Because I'll take you back just a wee bit as well, that you played in the first comeback game that Henrik Larsson played, reserve level.
That's right, and it was weird because we came in and the police guy came in, and this is like a run-of-the-mill Wednesday afternoon match at Broadwood, and the police guy goes, right, kick-off's delayed 45 minutes. And he goes, how can a reserve game be delayed? He goes, because there's about 10,000 people outside. And I swear to God, I went out from the warm-up and the fucking stadium was full. There was people locked outside.
And what stadium was it?
Airdrie Stadium, and it was locked. They were locked outside. Oh, I couldn't believe it. And I was like, it just shows you how big a player he was. I mean, I looked up to not just Larsson, but guys like that. When you think of the players, the era that I played in, like Laudrup and Gascoignes and Larssons, they were all. To me, I couldn't set the big argument with Laudrup and Larsson. I couldn't separate them. Both of them were unbelievable for Scotland.
But tell us what happened in the game then.
Right, well, I scored a double. It was so funny, actually. I scored a great goal, actually. And it felt like scoring the cup final because it was a reserve game, but there was 9,000 people there. And I remember Henrik, when I came to take centre, he goes, great finish. Even things like that, you remember. It's not kind of like that. Those are the memories you take. Someone like that saying great finish to you and all that. And he actually got injured again that game.
That's right. I
think it was Steve Fulton. Steve Fulton, as you know, is the biggest Celtic fan ever. He was like, what have I done? We're all happy that we've won 3-0, and Fulton's like, I think I've done him again. I was like, nah, he's alright. He was only out for a week or something after that.
So going back to August 2000, you've come on against Celtic, come on with Wanjo, I think, that day at the same time. Things are looking up and whatever. Then a couple of lows start. The first one is you're in the squad when you lose 6-2 at Easter Road.
I was.
What was that like?
Going back to the Celtic game, just momentarily. it was 3-0 at half time, and Hearts were absolutely having one. Like, Jackson had a nightmare. The ball was rolling under his foot. The fans are telling me, fuck off. He was having a nightmare. So half time comes, Sheffield's like, Kris, get stripped. I'll never forget this actually, because I was really nervous that game, because we're 3-0 down, and I'm like, I'm not hiding to nothing here. It wasn't a good situation to come on, and I remember like there was a huge argument in the changing room with Jackson and Jeffries. They were going head to head basically. But I'll never forget that, because I'm sitting there in the midst of this going on, and Jackson, he gave me a hug and we kissed on the forehead and said, you'll do great, you're a great player. Things like that. And he's one of the nicest people I've ever met in football. I don't know if you do know him actually. But it's
not the persona people think.
No, Jackson, I know, exactly. He's total opposite to his way. He winds people up and all that, but I thought he was the funniest guy ever. See, when I was on the bench at Ibrox, the second time I was there, the Rangers fan, I mean, some of the abuse that he got, honestly, it was absolutely sickening. I had to take a double take, and he said, Kris, you coming for a warm-up? Because I'm not going out there myself. So we get to the corner flag, and honestly, they're throwing cups of Bovra. I'm getting pelted along, just watching the abuse and interaction between it. But Jackson just totally, it was like he was blowing them kisses, and they were saying stuff about his brain and all that. Things that you couldn't.
Can't comprehend.
You can't comprehend that. I'm not singling the Rangers. There's fans for all clubs that do things like that. But Jackson was blowing them kisses and winking at them, and there was like nearly a full-scale riot. They were all like, the police and everything were involved, and he's just he's literally got 5 arrests, and because he's blowing them kisses and winking at them and all that. It was, what a guy. And then I said, and I got told to come on. I thought, I don't know what to go, and I'm enjoying this too much. So that game at Celtic, when they beat us 4-2, when I came on with Wanjo, I set up 2 goals that day as well. Done really, really well that day. And it was a great, I remember just the atmosphere that day was incredible.
It was.
Celtic were fantastic that day.
So as I said, so you move forward to the 6-2 game, you're in the squad. I mean, that was a pretty unique occurrence for Hearts.
Actually, that week we were doing shape for the team, and I was in the starting lineup. Yeah. And this game is up there with the Celtic 7-0 and 6-2 and all that. It's an iconic game in Hearts' history. And I'm just thankful that I wasn't part of it, so I was in the squad, obviously, and I thought I was starting, but I think Gordon Jury or Andy Cook passed the late fitness test, and then I kind of readjusted the bench, and I didn't even get on the bench. But which I'll be honest with you, we weren't doing very well. And Hibs were flying. Zatelli, Latapi, Patalainen, and they were some team under McLeish, I think it was. So I was quite glad not to be a part of that, actually. And I remember we were going through a bit of trouble with Chris Robinson financially and all that. We kind of went backwards since we won the Scottish Cup, and there was about 4,000 people waiting at the stadium. Well, 4,000 might be a bit of an exaggeration, but it was a good couple of thousand that the bus took ages to come back to Tynecastle, and the abuse that Robinson got was incredible. I was in the change room after the game that day as well, and Jeffries, I've never seen a face go purple before. He's gone nuts. He's gone absolutely mental. He's throwing teacups and kettles and all kinds over. He's picking Salvatore up by the neck. Someone, I can't remember if it was Salvatore, but to see the passion that come out of that man, he's losing 6-2 to your biggest rivals. You see that other side of it. People don't see that kind of what it means to people.
That's what I was just going to ask you. You've been on the other side here. I mean, fans, a lot of fans think a lot of people don't really give a fuck. You know what I mean?
You're making money, so they don't care. But believe me, the Hearts players cared that day. I just think Hibs were a much better team. They were quicker, they were sharper, and you get that in football. Teams are just better than you. Hearts got hammered. We took the lead as well. We had the cheek to take the lead.
That's true.
And I remember the windows there was hardly any Hearts fans at that game, if you remember.
I think it was
I don't know if it was a boycott or something. This was 2001. It was like 26 quid a ticket or something. But I bet a lot of them were quite happy not to do that. But if the crowd wasn't there, would they have got beat 6-2?
Who knows?
I don't think they would have. You're walking into a full end. It inspires you.
So you're progressing on. You're making your mark, and things are looking up. Jim Jeffries is talking about a full-time big contract, am I right?
4-year contract, yeah.
And then Jim Jeffries gets sacked.
Yeah, everything was going hunky-dory, as I say. And I was watching Sky Sports News, and it was so sudden. It was just Jeffries appointed Bradford City manager, and then my heart sank. It was just for some reason, you know, you're thinking, yeah, my life's going so well here. This manager absolutely loves me. And then he leaves. Well, I think he left because of the financial restrictions. Him and Robinson hated each other, I think. So he went down to Bradford, which is a great move for him. And then I just kind of was, well, who's going to be the next manager? Are they going to like me? And of course, he never.
Levine comes in.
Yeah.
And so, what's the first conversations you have with Levine?
Craig was.
He's a teammate.
He was a teammate to begin with when I first went in, and he was the nicest guy in the world. He was bubbly. He was organiser of all the night outs, Christmas night outs. Absolutely wonderful guy. Everybody loved him. Around the club, he was like everybody you couldn't speak highly of Craig Levine. So I think then he got his bad injury, which was career ending. Obviously, I had the press conference where he broke down. You know, everybody's heart kind of went out to him. And I think to this day, he, well, maybe not just now, but very the early years, I think he was quite bitter about that. You know, he's seeing guys at Army as half the player he was, making shitloads of money. Yeah. And he's probably missed out on all the high payday and stuff like that, because he wasn't around with the Sky deal and all that. And quite rightly so, he was one of my heroes as a kid. He was probably, I don't know about you, but what did you think of him? He was an incredible player, wasn't he?
He was a fantastic player, aye. I mean, he got the injury early in his career, and then obviously another one late in the career. But he was
talking about Juventus.
He was a top centre-half.
It was like a Rolls Royce,
one of the first cultured centre-halves, rather than just being a big stopper. Like, you know.
He was fantastic, you know.
So, he's manager.
Yeah, he's a manager, and he got... And so he kind of changed personality-wise, I think, when he got that... Because he used to ask me to go to Clydebank and everything on loan.
That's right.
He was like, I rate you really highly and want to get you in Clydebank, be a good experience for you. And a lot of the boys did, like Robbie Nielsen and that, but I was close to the first team, or in and about the first team, and I said, I'm quite happy here, and I say that a lot of times, I think he kind of resented that from me. Right. I think is this guy think he's too good to come to Clydebank? And it wasn't that. I just didn't want to play at Central Park. It was a shithole. Honestly, it wasn't that. I wasn't really in the mood to go on loan there, right? And I was close to the first team, and so I think to that point when I found out that he got the job, I must admit, I said to my mum, "That's me fucked." Excuse the French, but I went. She went, "Oh, don't be daft. You're fine and all that. You won't get released and all that." So this is a true story. Chris Robinson were at Pinky the next day. He comes in his car and out pops Levine, and he gathers everybody around. Can I get your attention? There's a big circle and Darren Jackson and Gary McSwiggan. And this is the God's honest truth, and I've got witnesses to this. He's going around shaking everybody's hand. Shaking everybody's hand, going, like fresh start, right, good luck and that. And he comes to me and misses me out. He actually deliberately just goes to the next person, and I just thought to myself, did that just happen? And then Scott Severin turned around to me and goes, "You're fucked." And then try to tell that to people, they think, they don't believe stuff like that exists.
It's pure David Brent, isn't it?
It is. So, I'm not saying I was a complete article as a player. I was learning the game, but I certainly didn't feel at that time that I was like for the scrap heap kind of thing. But ever since I was there for about 3 months, and I think he spoke once to me in 3 months, and that was he told me to pick up his jacket. We're in Portugal, and he was like, "Chris, I thought he was going to say something to me. Did you go and get that jacket for me?" And I did as well. And but things like that, they do. I think managers, certainly him. He. It wasn't just me. He didn't like, by the way. He hated Darren Jackson. Hated Gary McSwiggan. Any guys that were on kind of any money. Yeah. Remember Gary Wales came to train him with a BMW, and he said to him, "How on earth are you driving a BMW and all that?" It's like, you don't deserve to drive a BMW. You've done nothing in the game. That was kind of the way he went. And even like when he was in the Scotland manager's job, he just seemed very miserable to me. It was horrible time when he was in charge of the Scotland team. Yeah. But see now, it looks like he's found a role for him. It looks like he's almost back to his old happy self. And as a Hearts fan, all the best to him. Do you know what I mean? I don't really hold grudges. I just feel I was a bit unfairly treated, but I didn't hate Craig Levine or anything.
We'll come back to that. But what I want to ask you about is For the highs of signing to the lows of being released, can you tell us what that day was like?
That was for the best day of my life to the worst day of my life. Because it's weird because look at the weather outside, by that is the worst weather
I know,
I've ever
people
seen.
should understand that we're doing this in Hurricane Abigail.
I think the roof's going to come over this place.
It's a commitment we're showing to the listeners.
Yeah, but anyway, so where were we living? Now, getting
When
released. Oh, I ruined my life, yeah.
Know that you hate him.
No, I don't hate him, honestly. Nah, I actually don't. But so when he told me, I knew kind of because it was free. It was a build up of things. It was I'd scored a double up at the Tawdry and he didn't even speak to me. Things like that. His mind was made up. No matter what I did, whatever I was going to do, I wasn't going to get a contract.
Yeah.
So he just like John McGlynn, who was like the assistant, or he was the first team coach. He said, "Kris, the gaffer wants to see you." And all the boys in the shower were like, "Right, Slater, Kris, you know that's been nice knowing you." And all that. I was like, "Aye, by the way, I'm away. By the way, I hope you know that." So went into the changing room, and it's almost like he's got a smug face. It was strange. It was like he just decided not to renew your contract, and it wasn't a surprise, but it's like someone's going to die or something. But you know what's going to happen, but when it actually happens, that's what it felt like to me. I'd burst out crying. I'm not ashamed to admit that.
No, of course.
It was just I was a mess. But then I think I went up to the pub, played snooker, got really drunk, drowned my sorrows, to say the least. And to be honest with you, I was never the same player after that meeting. I had a few opportunities to do other things, but the spark that I had as a player, that wee bit of skill that I used to have, it all went really. And that's there's probably a million stories like that in football.
Yeah.
Not just me, but it's quite a tough life for a football player if you don't get, the contracts and stuff.
First of all, just to let the listeners know, tell us what you've done to Levein in training after they released you.
Well, I've done quite a few things. Megged them.
Nutmegged them.
I nutmegged them, aye. No, it was, he's playing in a 5-a-side game and he's playing in the defence and the ball came to me and I just looked one way and nutmegged him. And that was like my revenge. I'd done nothing for my career, but I felt brilliant. And then I scored past Craig Gordon, and I just went, there you go. That's what you're really.
Actually, it's a good wee aside there. Tell us about Craig Gordon, because I think you're quite stunned at what kind of player he's turned out to be and kind of managed.
I'm not surprised that he's doing well, because he was probably at a young age. He was on the ground staff with me, best shot stopper I've ever seen. Couldn't get the ball past him. He was double saves, triple saves, top corner. And he wasn't the tallest to begin with. He actually had to get other players to take the goal kick because he couldn't kick it more than 25 yards. Really. And Hearts were so close to releasing him.
Yeah.
And those are the thin lines. Now I don't know what they did. They done something. I don't know if it was all legal, but they helped him grow and stuff like that. Or they gave him something. I don't know what they did, but he kicked on. And it took about another year or so, then he became really big and strong, and then he started to show he got really tall first, then he started to kind of fill out, but I wasn't surprised with the ability. He was incredible.
But what kind of guy was he?
I didn't really get on with him. Me and him were I was kind of joker in the change room. He was quite dull.
Aye.
But he was really serious about his football and stuff like that, and he didn't like me, that's for sure.
Well, but another guy I remember you talking about similar to that was Stephen Presley.
Yeah.
Like you said at Christmas night suit and stuff, he would be talking tactics.
Well, exactly, yeah. I mean, which is fine, and I'm not knocking that, but Stephen Presley was what a player he was. And I don't think when he first came to Hearts he was a great player, but like how hard he worked at his game, he was always in the gym, and he became a fantastic player. But, I'm not going to criticise Stephen Presley for not having a drink, but he wasn't, I wouldn't say the life and soul of the party.
Yeah.
But he, not everybody is, and he made a great career. And actually, he's a really nice guy. He used to give me a lift to training and all that, and I really like.
Yeah. Well, the last thing on Hearts, and it's a general point, knowing what we know now in terms of the money that was spent and ETs were used and all that, then, do you think it was even harder for guys like you to break through with the money that was getting spent on top? There's the pressure on clubs to spend money. Well, there was no room for player development.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, you looked at our changing room, and there was nearly every single position for Hearts was an international player.
Yeah.
Having to compete with Rangers up in your Kanchelskis and Amorusos and all that. I mean, their team was frightening, as was Celtic's, but not as strong as Rangers for obvious reasons. But I think that it definitely curtails your development because there's not many opportunities,
Does it make you feel better?
Not at all. Yeah, I mean, as a Hearts fan...
I mean, I know you've got strong views on the whole sporting advantage thing.
Yeah.
That you believe they've got a massive sporting advantage.
Well, I do. I do feel that the Rangers definitely had a sporting advantage, but I feel sorry... No, this probably won't go down well with your listeners, but I feel sorry for the player, in a way, the players that were involved. As a player, your agent does your deals, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And they're just going out, they're going away to Kilmarnock on a rainy Tuesday night and getting results, and they've probably earned it. In a way, they've earned those kind of wins and stuff, but you can't hide the fact that they've gained a massive advantage.
Because of the players.
But it wasn't the players' fault, wasn't the fact, like, I felt sorry for the fans, because they like I said, they're just like Celtic fans, they go to the games, home and away, no questions asked. They don't, like, if, for instance, in 10 years' time it comes about that Celtic's, you've done something like that, you would probably feel that, well, no, we deserved it.
Well, I'd like to know why I didn't get in it.
Well,
no, but I know what you mean.
I don't blame the fans or the players, but I mean the club for me has got to be punished. But I think for the good for them themselves as well.
I think generally we need to draw a line under this in Scotland.
Yeah, I know, because it's just killing it, really, isn't it?
So we'll speak through things before we get your views on other things. So from Hearts, where do you go?
I went on loan to Berwick Rangers for a little bit, and we're actually going for the league title. I got a call early one morning to say that Anthony Niemi was on the phone saying, do you want to go over to Finland?
Aye.
Got a team that are interested in you. I think it was the Finnish national manager who was the manager of this team also. And I went, it was like last minute kind of thing, went over to Finland, and it was, I was still a bit reeling from being released and stuff. I wasn't, the first few weeks I think they wanted to release me because they were like, well, who's this? I was like an imposter. And they had a word with me saying, are you okay and all that? I was like, I'm just not myself. But eventually I started to get a grip of it.
Would it be fair to say you had a chip on your shoulder then about the Hearts thing?
Oh, aye.
And in hindsight, is that a thing you would have changed about yourself? Then?
If I could change it now and went back, I would, because you see guys getting released now, like Scott Robinson, who was a Hearts fan, but he's like, they took it in a positive way. I'll go to Kilmarnock, I'll get games, and I wish, but you know how much Hearts meant to me.
Yeah, of course.
And it was everything to me. And I gave up Arsenal, full-time contract to sign for Arsenal. Celtic were interested in signing me, Blackburn, all these teams, and I said no. I didn't even bat an eyelid actually, just to be with Hearts, because that was my only team. So if it was anybody but Hearts that released me, I think I would have made it. Yeah. As in, I would have really.
So from Finland, you come back to Hamilton.
Yeah, and Ali Dawson.
Robert Tell us about him.
Oh, she's Tweedledee and Tweedledum, nature. I did not get on well with them at all. And I had heard rumours before that they had were treating the guys for Edinburgh quite poorly. And I was like, I'd say I'll take them at face value, but right for them, he signed me, but right for the word off, he just completely took a dislike to me, as you took a dislike to me when you first got to know me. Or everybody does. It was so strange. You were like, first week into pre-season, alright Gaffer, just walked past me. I'm like, what have I done here? And then Robert Pitts, he was the weirdest. He was a nice guy, but he was so strange,
Yeah.
He was obviously he played for Rangers and that. But I don't know, I just right for the word go, I was like, I just do not want to be here. So very quickly being at Hearts in the first team, I went to Finland, I'm at Hamilton, and things are just going drastically worse and worse. Then I got the offer to go to America for a scholarship.
Tell us about that, because you go to play for Des Moines Menace. What was that experience like for you going? What was the standard like?
Oh, it was a fantastic experience, life-wise. Career suicide though.
Yeah.
Looking back on that, I had another year of my contract left at Hamilton. I wish I'd kind of done that, had a good year and worked my way back up again. I made some terrible decisions, but probably because I wasn't thinking straight. That was probably the worst decision, was to go to America, career-wise. I got a scholarship. Well, my mate Darren Goldie was at Hearts. He got released the same time as me from Living. I read about him in the paper getting a scholarship in America. So I gave him a call actually and said they'd be interested in me, and then it just happened really quickly. Got my visa. a great experience. I went to college first, but I really was just to get a foot in the door so I could get to a professional level. But the lifestyle and the people in America were great. They're really positive people, and it's the one thing I probably took from that country.
Yeah. I mean, so obviously you're over there, you're playing, and it's back and forth and things like that, and coaching, and now you're back here and you're coaching. What about the differences between coaching over there and coaching over here?
Not many, really. But for me, me coaching.
Yes.
Well, I was coaching kind of 12-year-old, 14-year-old boys, but see the attitude that they've got. The Americans, it's can-do attitude.
Yeah.
You know, they weren't as talented as Scottish people, but see if we could take the attitudes of Americans and put them into their diet, their fitness, everything that Scottish people haven't got. That's a big difference. They take their athleticism and their health seriously. I'm not saying that Scottish people don't, but in the main...
Not enough, do.
Not enough, no. And you after a game, you probably think, I'll have the odd chippy.
Yeah.
But in America, it's all about, especially at the higher level, it's about what you're doing for the next game, you're preparing. And I think there's a lot of good coaches out there who are doing it now. Robin Nielsen's excellent at that, Ronnie Daly, Mark Warburton's at the sports science and all that. So I think it's more emphasis now about being a professional rather than ability. Really. Ability is almost second nature.
I mean, as we speak this week, Gordon Strachan's been quite strong on what needs to change and all that kind of thing. And right back at the start of it, you talked about how you played football. When you lift your aim back, no coaching, no nothing, just going out and playing. Have we lost that?
Definitely have. That's the one thing that I've noticed. That I cannot. Well, I live in Livingston now, and I honestly do not see any kids anywhere, unless it's an organised game, playing football. I don't know what that is. There's a host of reasons. People maybe don't feel safe outside now and stuff. I don't know what it is. Our parents might not feel safe to leave their kids out on their own. I don't know what it is, but I mean, when we lived in Pennywell, in Muirhouse, it was literally hundreds of kids all over the place.
Football non-stop.
Playing off the curbs, using cars as goals, using jumpers as goalposts.
I actually said that to my son. I was playing football, and of course I'm 41 now. My legs are gone, but you just do. And I said to him, the best I ever was when I was about 14, 15, and I wasn't at any level, but because I played every single day, and you're honing your skills and whatever. Whereas now, a guy says to me, he says, you think we care about football in this country? He says, let me ask you a question. How many shops in Edinburgh sell football boots? True. Where would you go? Sports Direct, then you'd be struggling.
No, you're right there, by the way.
It's something that, and do you feel now as you're kind of, you're 35 now and stuff like that, and you feel you care more about development of the game and development of players?
I do. I'm out my bad mood about being released with Hearts now. That's only took 15 years.
15 years, that's been no bad.
I'm finally coming around.
You finally went back to Tynecastle.
Yeah, exactly.
In fact, you were at Tynecastle last week, weren't you?
I was, yeah. I've never stopped supporting Hearts.
And you've always been a passionate guy.
Yeah.
To the point where we've all probably had a fight with you because of that. But can you see your passion going into developing players at Hutchie Vale now?
Yeah, absolutely. I fell on my feet with this Hutchie Vale job. Some of the talent, under 20s just now, is exceptional. I would like to say the whole team, but I'd say 7 or 8 absolute golden nuggets. I think a few teams looking at our players like Hibs and all that. So we've got absolutely fantastic talent in Scotland, actually. But it's almost like they get to a certain level and it gets kicked out of them. So it's good at this level, but then they get into the clubs and it's almost like it's about winning, that's what football's about. But then with that pressure, it takes away the enjoyment for them. Right now, it's just an under-20 league. They can go out and do tricks, and if they lose, they lose. We like to win, but we'll encourage them to go and take players on. If they lose a ball, it doesn't matter. In Scottish football, it's like, don't you dare lose a ball. When Jurgen Klopp came into Liverpool, and his ethos is that mistakes are okay. Final third. I think mistakes are okay. I made one once. Training. But so it's about giving people the platform to play and to express themselves without the fear, I think, to losing the ball. But I think the crowds have got big parts to play in that as well. If you go to Tynecastle, honestly, I'm a Slagging Hearts fan, every team, give the ball away and it's like the end of the world.
I agree. Simon Donnelly said to me that all the years he played football, he can't remember a single thing a coach says to him when he was on the park.
You can't.
So So therefore, why do we have guys screaming, ranting and raving
because they want to be seen to be doing something.
Exactly.
But you can't really get anything into them until you at the start of the game, or you can maybe get a message on them. But to shout at a player, it's pointless.
I mean, I heard Gordon Strachan told a story where he said going to Spartans and they'd said to him, do you want to come and present the trophies for the Player of the Year awards? Gordon Strachan says, you know what, I don't think that really does anything for players, getting loads of trophies at 13, 12, whatever. But what I will do is I'll come in and I'll coach every level you have for free for one night. This boy never phoned them back. And Strachan says, you know what that's about? That's about the guy, what he sit beside me at the do, saying, look at me beside the Scotland manager, and all that nonsense.
What, he tells it,
and football in Scotland's full of people like that, isn't it?
I mean, I love Strachan. I think he's definitely...
It's funny because we were born and bred in Muirhouse, and we can see Muirhouse in Gordon Strachan, the way he conducts himself. He doesn't suffer fools, sarcastic as fuck, you know. But to round it up, I mean, where do you see Scottish football in 10 years? I know you're a big Scotland fan, almost a away guy. What's the future for the national team in the game itself?
I'm a very passionate Tatanami.
You're more passionate than William Wallace.
Yeah, I'd like to think so. Yeah, but I am, you know. I'm Mr. Positive. But,
were we right to retain Strachan and his management team?
I would 100%. I think I like the whole management. I like McCall, I like McGee, I like Strachan. You know, we were 15 minutes away if we go into the playoffs. Ireland scored and it was like the end of the world. We're terrible. Like Henry McLeish pops out from nowhere and he's like his blueprint again. Fuck off, you know. He just appears at the end of every campaign. Just to like rub it in. But to me, that's the best Scotland team we've had in years. It's got pace, it's got power. Yeah, there's a few people maybe are coming towards the end of their career that aren't as good, like your Huttons and stuff like that. But a few tweaks here and there, get Snodgrass back, then I think we can qualify for the World Cup. I mean, the draw's been fairly kind. I think I'm not sure we'll beat England, but these games will take care of themselves at second place.
Yeah.
And as for the general state of Scottish football, again, I'm positive about that too. I think there's a lot of talent in Scotland. And I think if you look at the standard of football compared to say 10 years ago, I think it's people slaughter it. I think the product's not as good. You know, you've got half-empty stadiums at Inverness and Ross County, and even at Celtic. You know, there's 30,000 at a league game now, and it used to be. Honestly, I think Lee Griffiths scored against Dundee the other week, and about 10 people didn't even. I mean, they barely got a clap. They didn't even stand up. They were just like that. You know. When Rangers were involved, with Celtic kind of had rivals. You go mental every goal. You know, you look at YouTube videos back when Larsson scored. It was pandemonium, eh? So I think we've got to get rid of that kind of attitude where it's almost like apathy, eh? Really. I don't think it's that bad. I watched the Ross County Inverness game the other week there. An actual standard with the passing and the pace of the game was a high standard. It just looks terrible when there's like 5 people at the game, and but the prices and the people who are in charge yet are having an absolute nightmare. I
had a bit of a rant about that myself a couple of weeks ago. We played at Hamilton, and I'm standing there at the side of the pitch in a garden shed watching 2 teams on an artificial pitch, and there's a double-decker fucking bus behind the goal. I'm thinking, what is going on here? Like, you know what I mean?
But that's the worst thing that we've got to get rid of is Xtra pitches. That is an abomination. An abomination. I mean, that's ruining football. I think the Hamilton physio said that his workload triples during the season. He said that people are going to start, like, people who start at 15, 16 will end up retiring at 28, 29 because of their knees and their joints. It's not a real game of football to me. It's got to go. Got to go.
And finally, just to wrap it up, do you think your 3 brothers have held you back in life?
100%. Especially Paul.
I thought so.
Had to get that in there.
Well, thanks everybody for listening. A wee bit different. HomeBhoys Extra. It's not always Celtic stuff. It's not always something, but it was great, entertaining stuff. Background noise was supplied to you by Costa Coffee, and we'll see.
Hurricane Abigail.
Yeah, and Hurricane Abigail as well. Yes, we were out there in the pissing rain and wind and whatever. So thanks for listening, and we'll speak to you again soon, folks. Bye bye.